No.
Oh, Fanfest!
There we go. Oh yeah, we got to skip the cringy first try.
It's good to be back. Gotta love it. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm CCP Burger, like hamburgers, yes, I know. And I'm the creative director of EVE Online. And I want to welcome you to the EVE Keynote. God damn, we waited a long time for this one.
Yes, we did.
First off, I want to thank this year's hosts, the Caldari State, for hosting Fanfest 2022. The Caldari is founded on the pillars of duty, loyalty, efficiency, and hard work. While not as large as Galante or Amar, their statue is still universally respected throughout for their economy and technological wonders. This year, Caldari opens their doors to the newly renovated Jita 4.4 for you, honorable capsuleer, despite your questionable history, standings, and allegiance. I can see
Caldari Advanced Cruiser.
Yeah.
Oh no!
It's been 4 years since I stood on stage last time at Fanfest. And it wasn't actually in the keynote, it was in this shenanigans here. Awesome. And like Helmar was talking about earlier, we took a break in 2019 to take EVE on a world tour. From the awesomes of EVE Vegas filled with burgers and American joy, to little more intimacy in Keminosari in Finland. Apparently this is like Finland all the time, but yeah, it's awesome. Here you can see CCP Helmar in deep conversations about wormholes needing more chaos. Well, that break in 2019 became a wee bit longer than we had hoped. But that didn't
Tempest,
stop
it was the motherfuckers
really,
that did it.
Really
Here, I'll
busy
it.
Since,
but it flagged you for
2019.
motherfuckers, not for the Matani.
You've had wars, you have welcomed new and actually shot new players. You forged new alliances, and more and more and more. And to put it into a wee bit of context, we have some stats about what's been going on in the world since 2018, the last time we were here in Reykjavik. So, since last Fanfest in Reykjavik, you have manufactured 277,128,163,031 items. I think there are 32 now because this data was taken half an hour ago. And to put this into context, even more, you've actually manufactured 48,127,647 ships. You've destroyed almost 30 million of them. Job well done. And and then you've blown up like 7.3 million capsules, you know, basic stuff. But the next number is actually one of my favorite numbers because you have also destroyed 1,059 Titans.
That's a good number. It's a good start.
Not enough, yeah. Let's blow some more shit up. You've had almost 1 billion market transactions, trading this amount of items, worth around,
quadrillion? Right.
Wait for it, I learned a new thing yesterday. 35 quadrillion ISK, and some change, yeah.
I know quadrillion. I've played Cookie Clicker.
Yeah, I mean, people sometimes make fun of the Icelandic economy, that it's kind of fake. This definitely makes the Icelandic economy look fake. So, job well done. Woohoo!
Yeah, it's a big number.
And all that creation and destruction has brought us, you know, back here to Reykjavik for a fantastic weekend where we can talk and breathe and laugh and cry and form new friendships, all in the EVE universe.
I'll let you know the moment that my stomach started to
Talking about new
get queasy.
friends. Over the last couple of years, we've been investing a lot in our new player experience. Really supporting our new players to become stronger cogs in the war machine that EVE is. The steep learning curve. This is an upgraded graph of the steep learning curve. The steep learning curve to get into New Eden has been our reality from the very beginning. And through numerous attempts, we've tried to soften this curve with various results, to say the least. One key problem that we've always run into is that we've always viewed this as a problem, like, hey, here's a problem, can you fix it? Rather than an ever-evolving, long-term initiative. And that's a big, huge change that kind of was kicked off at Amsterdam in 2019. EVE is a vast, complex sandbox with incredible freedom given to the players that make it their home. In the real side of reality, most people don't have core competencies to live an independent life until in their kind of late teens, early 20s, or in my case, much, much later. You will know why at pub crawl tonight. So why in the world should capsuleers be ready to jump into the deep end of the pool after 30 minutes of school? EVE is about world domination or death, whether it's building the strongest army to crush your enemies or assembling a smarter squadron to trap your prey. It's our role as CCP to prepare the hopefuls cadets into your EVE Online, because more players equals more content that equals a better game. Through our focus on new players, we've set 3 core design principles to help frame the new player conversation going forward and ultimately to victory. The ultimate sci-fi experience.
That's
first pillar, pretty cool.
That's the buzzword.
I want to take you guys a few years into the future and kind of see.
That's that rebranding that I was talking about. And listen, when he's talking about this, so this was not understand. What he's saying right here is what he wants people to be thinking in 3 years when they can join the game.
I got just thrown 21,000 years into the future, and I'm intrigued to learn more. I really feel one with the game, whether I'm blowing up enemies, mining megaroids, or exploring the new frontier. The universe inspires me to push further into the unknown and forge my own adventure. EVE Online is the benchmark what sci-fi should look and feel like. Easy to grasp, hard to master. I'm coming to EVE decades after it was released. I definitely did not expect to grasp the controls so quickly. It probably helps that I've been playing other games and I've been trading online for a while. I feel like I'm constantly evolving in EVE. Every mission and interaction builds confidence in taking on bigger challenges when I hit a roadblock. Aura is there to help me.
That line right there gets me very excited.
It's more about finding my place in the universe and creating my own niche. Fulfills my purpose. EVE is a more integrated part of my day-to-day. The relationships that I build are meaningful, and the things that I do satisfy my curiosity. Like in the real world, the single shared universe is filled with all sorts of people with all sorts of interests. This is what makes the world unique, exciting, and unpredictable. But what's always predictable is finding something to do, or the game pointing me towards interesting new challenges. With these principles in hand, we set the EVE Academy teams that are focused on new player experience on a road to a better EVE Online. So, here to talk a little bit more about it, I want to welcome CCP Sledgehammer.
Again, that was
has something
so. Remember, we talk about vision or that stuff. Like what he was doing is
who knows. And then after him, CCP Nomad. My
he was giving what's called a user story.
Clicker, read us forward.
Not a user story, but shoot, I can't remember the name of it. But, user profile. So
hello everyone.
What he's saying is that's what.
It's actually amazing to
that's
see
how
you
a user should
again.
respond when they
I'm from
interact
Team
with the
Odyssey.
game.
We're a
It's not that it does it yet. That's the problem.
That's part of the Academy segment of EVE Online development. We've spent the last year reimagining what the first moments of gameplay for the new players should be. We're creating a modern, narratively driven, storyline experience that introduces players to New Eden while teaching them the basics of the games and its mechanics and showing off its potential. We've leveled up our content authoring capabilities and collaborated very closely with art, audio, cinematics, player research, and tool teams to deliver each installment of this exciting and engaging story. starting with the team's first release.
Yeah, I really would have
September
wished
2021.
them to at least preview the next stage.
So, the first chapter of the Air MPE picks up as soon as the player has created a character and opted into the tutorial.
At least going more into what they're going to do.
We have a cinematic that introduces the player to New Eden and sets the scene for the first moments of gameplay. And you can see it here. This is the aftermath of an attack on the air cloning station that you've just woken up in. We worked closely with art, cinematics, and audio to create a smooth transition from the cinematic into the game, which you've just seen. We introduced Aura, who guides you through this experience. We also introduced Balin Ferris, who is leading the evacuation of this besieged facility. And we also introduced Vesper Calatrix, who is the VP of Operations for the Association for Interdisciplinary Research. We established our main narrative hook for the story. That is, who's behind
this part,
this attack.
Rushlock is putting what they've been putting
did all of this
into context, and they do talk about like how it plays in. Like right now, he's introducing different characters and everything. So I mean.
So,
not just
the next
looking back,
installment we released in March earlier this year. In this, we exposed the player to mining for the first time. This is a low barrier, entry into like making ISK and EVE Online. So we figured this would be the most sensible place to take the player next. We teach the player how to mine asteroids, what the difference between ore and minerals are, and what they could be used for. We taught them how to sell the ore that they've gathered and where they can see how much ISK they have, so exposing them to the wallet, all with narrative justification. We hint at how mining is the backbone to the economy of New Eden, that there's a vast machine at work toiling day and night to provide the fundamental ingredients for everything that's built in the cluster. And we also revisited aspects of our September release. We always want to strive to improve what we've released, so we updated the skill and fitting moments in that release to provide better narrative justification and a more solid lesson for the player. As you've seen, in the story so far, we introduced several key characters, Aura, Balin, Vesper, and Elias. We want this to be a character-centered experience. Players form strong emotional connections with well-developed characters, and this in turn promotes immersion and engagement in the universe. We don't want the player to feel as if they're alone on their journey. These characters don't just drive the story along, they're your companions on this adventure. It lets us give each career a relatable representative and use these characters to ease the player into more complicated scenarios and mechanics and systems. As we introduce each of these characters, we want the experience around them to feel like a taste of what it'd be like to be a member of that profession, but just a taste. The basic mechanics or core competencies involved in each of these careers. We want to give the players the space to become comfortable in the universe and to instill in them the confidence to reach out on their own in New Eden. Underpinning all of this work is an incredibly powerful new content authoring system that we've made alongside the content. We call this Noddy. It's short for the Node Graph Editor. It's highly flexible, letting us trigger a plethora of events from any condition that we can track on the client.
This was the first moment that I actually got excited.
Every piece of UI guidance, action that an NPC takes, a goal that a player has to satisfy, or music and cutscenes that play in our experience are all queued up and scheduled by this service and this tool.
CCP Dragon, is this the thing that you guys were getting started with all that time ago?
Important. But we want this to be the standard tool for content development in EVE moving forwards. And we'll talk more about this tomorrow on this stage. The next installment of the AirMPE is going to focus on exploration.
That's what I thought.
We know from survey data that the idea of exploration is what brings a lot of new players into the game. But we don't just want to show them the functionality of a probe scanner or how to hack a cat.
This is good. I love everything he says here.
We want to instill in them the emotional values of exploration. What's behind that next Stargate? Is there anything interesting in this cosmic signature? Who did I just see on D-scan? We want to
My
make
favorite
sure
part about that
the
line, though, is that he
appreciates
suggests
the
that they're
scale of the
going to know what
universe,
D-scan
is humbled
is.
and inspired by its complexity and its majesty. We have a high-level design for this, but we want to let this mature over the next few months. I just want to let you know, though, that we're not going to be sitting idle in the meantime. As I mentioned, we're dedicated to improving things that we've released. We don't want to fire and forget. And we have extensive data points to reference for our entire experience so far. Looking at this, we can see some clear areas for improvement.
That was surprising.
So part of what we want to do in the next few months is harden up this experience so that we can dive headlong into the next chapter, confident that we've given it our best in the beginning. But that's not all we want to do before then. Career agents. We lead the player to the career agents during their MPE as a handoff to find more activity, to become more familiar with other professions. The art team are working on a massive visual update in its early stages for all of the career agent content. And we on Team Odyssey are going to be looking to introduce a guidance layer, assess the rewards, make sure any missing critical information is presented to the player clearly and not buried in local chat. With Team Pathfinder, we're also looking to give the agent conversation UI an update. We'll have more details on that tomorrow as well. More exciting.
That's one of those things that's just like a throwaway line, but is one of those big announcements.
Applying our node graph editor to missions and
that's
to
another one of
dungeons. This is in its infancy right now, but this is the focus for the team over the next few months. We'll be here at 12 o'clock tomorrow to talk more about this if you want to see any juicier details. I'll pass it over to CCP Nomad now, who's going to talk to you more about character progression and career progression. Thank you very much.
Hello, Fanfest. That's a noble goal, isn't it? Keep new players. How do we do that? We focused on one of the possible answers to that question. Just keep them busy. Give them something interesting to do, and they will stay. So what is there interesting to do in Eve? Let's see what you guys have to say about that.
No, it's because Eve Reddit is for people that don't like Eve.
Who has seen this? Show of hands. All right. So this was made by one of you, Altru. I hope I spelled that correctly. And this shows what there is to do in Eve, all kinds of activities. But
I don't know if they're on Sissy.
What it is lacking, it's just saying what stuff there is to do, but there's no way to explain how to do it. In other words, OK, I want to be an explorer and do hacking. How do I go from here, from seeing this screen, to actually doing it in-game? Before I explain where this is going, I will show you another complexity of Eve. So those are the skill groups. There's 23 of them, and it's already make it difficult to pick what you want to train out of this selection. But what happens when we go deeper? Oh, God.
There's an old skill chart that he should have shown.
In Eve, and it's not easy to decide what to train, when to train it. So back in September, we simplified this choice. We released the skill plans. We compiled lists of skills into certified skill plans, and they take away the complicated choice and allow you to easily progress your character before you know how to do it, really. So certified skill plans not only provide you with the list of skills, but also with the information about suggested fitting for particular activity and the links to the agency so you can find the content that might be of interest to you. Then 2 months later, after the September, we released the corporation skill plans so you guys can do this help for your recruits. Thank you.
Well, yeah, Starkey. I mean, by default, that's what you have to do.
We solved the skills problem, kinda.
Everything would be optimal.
With the skill plans so far. How do we deal with this monster? Let me introduce you to
I get what you mean.
Air Career
At
Program.
max rate, which is very likely.
It guides you through multitude of activities in each career, so you can easily access and experience all areas of the game. This new system monitors everything you do, no consent needed.
This is downright burying the lead.
Right.
This isn't a skill point system,
provides
this
you
is
with
an
the
achievement system.
rewards for
Cool.
completed goals, allows you to get a good picture of what there is to do in Eve and to choose who I want to be,
This is
what
it.
I want to be doing.
This is what I've been
what
saying
I
they
should
need.
be doing now.
Right here. This is one of the biggest things.
As
No
I
joke.
said, it tracks all your actions, gives the rewards, including skill points and skins. This is mostly focused for new players, but all of you will experience this in one way or another. It pushes you to interact with all types of gameplay, and it gives you career-related free expert
they didn't give any
systems
meat.
to allow you to try out ships before
It's not
you train into
MPE.
them.
This is
So
not
then
MPE.
You can make the choice of what to train after you have tried it out. Finally, it creates
Unless you've
capable
already
EVE
done
players
everything
who
in the
know
game,
what
then
to
it
do
isn't
and
MPE.
how to do it.
It's just an achievement system. That's
A
for
couple of
everybody.
examples of goals. In total, there's 188 of them from various areas of the game. Some require focused effort, like hacking 20 containers in null. You need to make a choice to do so. Others will be fulfilled passively, like randomly warp disrupting people.
No, a ton of people have been asking
And
for
in
this.
some situations, the new players might need your veteran help to fulfill their goals.
What about goals
Like
about arriving at landmarks?
Like mentioned before, the air carrier program will provide the players with free expert systems.
Right. Those were
we
basic
allowed them to
tasks.
try out
There's
multiple
180
ships.
tasks.
You
You,
can
think
see,
they're all going to be hack 5 things?
In the next slide, you will see the list of ships. But there's one expert
Also,
system
those are
for
just
each
standing
carrier,
pictures, dude.
and they will be provided as a reward for completing that career agent missions. So very early in the game, players will have access to a bunch of ships that otherwise they would have to train for.
I think the bigger problem is that they're afraid of putting too much of a reward there
So
because
those are
that would
the
make
ships
players
that
mad.
new players will be able to fly
Legitimately from
without
back in the day.
having to
So they
train them.
put like small rewards now. But I mean, they can always increase it, even if it
So
was wrong.
what else we are working
It's nothing
on
to worry about.
besides the air carrier program?
Or at least that's not the thing to worry about, I should say.
How about this?
Data. This one was the one I got kind of sketch on, but I think I can be won over on it.
All right, if you are interested in any of what I said or CCP/Hammer just said, come and see us tomorrow at the same stage at 12. Thank you.
I disagree because what 20 cans and nulls like what 4 sites?
Thanks, man. Wow, pretty exciting stuff. So, we aim to teach players core competencies by folding the lessons into an engaging narrative.
This is what I meant by I
that
think
gives
CCP
people
will
purpose
have
and goals,
a different
rather
idea
than
of like
sending
how
them
much
to
people will
school.
like this stuff.
We all
far
to
as
make
the
them better
presentation goes.
capsuleers for your ranks.
This
The
is
big
awesome.
question is, has it worked?
I think that people need to go back and watch what they
So,
just said, what they
this
just
is a
showed,
pretty
because that was
complex
again
one, so
bearing the
bear
lead.
with
Like
me.
that was fucking awesome.
Here you're looking at the median average session length by session. No, wait. It's way more
No,
complicated than that,
it was
sorry.
a training
It's the
video.
moving
It
average
was a
of
video.
median,
Okay, yeah, I'll
session
go back,
lengths
hold on.
in minutes by session over the last 4 months.
Oh
The
God,
average
please don't
of-
let me die.
No.
Please don't
Bear
fucking
with
let me
then
die.
better capsule-
What they're
the
showing
lesson.
here is this is a training video on how to spiral tackle. So this is the kind of stuff that new players are going to be given access to. So that way people actually know how to fucking play this game. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great?
Wow, pretty exciting stuff.
People got to feel
So,
confident in their ability to
we
play
aim
the game
to teach
without
players core
having to be
competencies
running
by
into another
folding the
player.
lessons into an engaging narrative that gives people purpose and goals rather than sending them to school. We all
Spiral
to
what?
make them better capsuleers for your ranks.
Oh boy.
But the big question
is why we need these
has
things.
it worked? So, this is a pretty complex one, so bear with me.
People
Here
don't
you're looking
give this
at
graph as much credit
the
as it should.
median
fact-
average session length by session.
I feel like he doesn't properly explain this very well, so I'm going to try a little bit myself. And I'm going to tell it a story first and foremost. So there's a game called Antechamber, and the guy who made it, he took this game to every convention he could possibly go to, and he had as many people play tested as he possibly could. And he watched and monitored and tracked every single one of the play tests. And he had a metric that he used in order to make the game, in order to progress the game. His metric was, how long does a player stand there at the booth at a convention and play the game before they voluntarily walk away? And he said, like, when he first started, it was like 3 minutes or something like that. but he kept iterating on it and iterating on it and iterating on it with the one metric of how long people stay. And he said that when he got to 45 minutes, he released the game. And if you play Antichamber, it is one of the most biggest mindfuck. The game is always 2 steps ahead of you that you could possibly play. Like, it is really fun. But my point is that the metric of activity time is not a bad one. So that, like, this, I feel like people didn't quite understand what they're saying here. What they're saying here is, of the people who log in, how long do they log in when they log in for the first time per frame of time? I can't remember the frame of time, right? So the first time they log in on average, of all the people that log in once, that first time they log in that bottom amount and then on up. So as people log in multiple times, their average goes up, which kind of makes sense because, you know, the people that log in more often are also more likely to be the ones that log in for longer. But overall, what this trend shows are the people that log in are on average logging in for a longer period of time, which hopefully would, with other metrics, suggest that in spite of everything else and all the whinging and all that stuff, this is a good indication that the people that are logging in are finding things to do, are being more engaged, which I think is consistent with at least my anecdotal observation. So yeah, that's why I think that they presented this this stat, and I don't think that it quite got across. But either way, that's my understanding.
No, wait. It's way more complicated than that, sorry. It's the moving average of median session lengths in minutes by session over the last 4 months. Just want to make sure that our data team doesn't kill me after this. On the right,
Thanks,
you can see the session numbers. The first really interesting line here is the orange line on the bottom. That's the
I might not have been
median
even
average
100% correct, but
back in
you get my point.
2018, when I was standing on the stage, this number was 13 minutes. And it's sitting at 27 minutes today, which is pretty huge. And this is no alts, just new players. And what's actually interesting here is that by giving people purpose, by teaching them how to mine and giving them, proper goals, we're actually starting to push up.
I'm going to push back against all these people that are complaining about charts and stuff. This is what fucking EVE Online presentations are all about. If you don't want to watch charts, you are playing the wrong fucking game. Let me tell you, we are some chart-loving nerds over here. Like, because you love some I don't know what to tell you beyond that.
This is the percentage of first logons with the market rating within the first 7 days. So players are taking more part in the economy. New players are taking more part in the economy. And if we look at young players' wealth, here we're looking at the 25th percentile of active wallets. Back in 2018, that number was
Povo, that's what the whole point of Living Universe is. You're absolutely correct, and everybody agrees.
At 609,000.
CCP agrees.
So new players are finding more ways to make money. And if we look at skill points in queues for alphas, back in 2018, we were at 65,000 skill points. But today, we're at 950,000 skill points.
Nope.
And that's actually 1,361
I'm dinging you on this one.
54%.
This is
growth.
This is shit.
So, new players are planning for the future.
I'm calling it what it is. That stat sucks.
But making EVE more accessible isn't all about adventures. No fantastic story will ever fix shitty UI, just like no fantastic UI will ever fix a shitty story. Okay. I totally stole that quote from
that stat sucks because there's an there's an expression. There's 3 types of lies: lies, damn lies, and statistics. That is a perfect example of flagrantly deceptive statistics. So that looks like a giant change. Oh my God, alphas must be training so much more. Alphas no longer have a 24-hour minimum requirement. So now they can put in as much length as they want to. Like, that stat is 1,000% bullshit. Everything else is fine, but like, I'm calling out that stat. That stat was terrible to present.
Jintan, if you're here, thank you. Sorry, I passed it. And we've made massive investments, as you might have noticed, into UI and UX over the last few years.
Well, no, it's how
All
many
with the
skill
goal
points are in
of
queue,
making Eve
Midnight
easier
Space
to
Monkey,
understand
not
and
how many
hard
was
to
earned.
master. We want to create more reasons to look at space. And we want to use common and consistent gaming language throughout. And this is a huge task. We've been developing this game for over 19 years.
I'm sure Berger will appreciate me calling
to take
him
on
out,
that project and talk about it a little more, I want to welcome on stage CCP Unison, our lead UI designer. Please, please, please don't call him a graphic designer. You should much rather call him the head of mission control efficiency.
You can tell that this isn't that he isn't like hardcore because it's not a UI UX engineer.
I'm pretty new to CCP, and I'm one of those 60% that Hilmar talked about. This is my first Fanfest since I started, so super glad to be here. But I'm not new to EVE Online. My dad used to work at Skivon, which is the place that sold the first ever copy of EVE Online, and I remember him coming home on release date with a boxed copy of the game, and we were like super hyped playing it on our home PC together, like
yeah, the skill
similar
queue
to this one
changed
here.
when they changed
I just wanted to show this to emphasize
skill plan
it's
system.
been almost 20 years since the game came out, and 20 years is a long time in gaming and an even longer time in UI design. A lot changes in this time. And over 20 years of development, our UI had started to show its age. So in the beginning of last year, we asked ourselves, how do we prepare our UI?
Literally the one consistent thing I've heard from CCP is like, we would really like to make a better UI.
To be able to move forward. When new players start playing EVE, they need to learn how to use our UI and know how to interact with it. We can look at our UI as a visual language. And if we do that, we don't want to be teaching German in one window and then have to teach Japanese in the next one. So as you can see here, our button library had become way overloaded with over 100 different styles. So we really needed to start by fixing the inconsistencies with the designs to be able to.
If what you're trying to do is sell it to the outside world,
our answer to tackle this problem is
never
Photon,
been
our new design system.
Sexy.
We released it on TQ in April.
Understandable.
And we released it as an opt-in beta. The reason why we did that was to be able to get your feedback on it as early as we possibly could. After a month on TQ, we've had over a 5% adoption rate, which is a lot more than we expected. And we've gotten super valuable feedback from you guys. We've written blogs about it, posted videos, posted on our forums, and we're really grateful for the time and effort you put into it. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
We're actively working on improvements for Photon based on your feedback.
Well, it's one of the things that they got called out for by
big one we're tackling is
zero punctuation way back in the day.
Is the combat mode, which will tackle the issue of some windows taking up too much space.
Can we just like kill the bottom padding? Like literally, I will just stop complaining.
We're also working on improvements for the notification
if I can
system
just
for
have that
Neocom,
one thing.
which will get rid of the infamous red dot.
This is actually really cool. I like this.
But we'll also tone down the constant blinking that we have in the Neocom today. After we've ironed out most of the kinks, we really look forward to bring more life and enjoyment into the UI with animations and enjoyable interactions, like this one here for the undock button. I just really would love to undock all day with this thing.
So
it's quality of life improvements like these combined with your valuable feedback.
So this is one of the things that I find kind of odd because so when we see all these big UI improvements, which we're going to see a lot in the next little bit, the thing that bothers me about it is that I can't see how it's all going to come together. Like that button looks really cool and it's got a cool particle effect, but it doesn't feel like something that they're actually going to put into the game. Like I can't imagine how it would just go in there somewhere. I feel like it was more made to just look cool for a presentation, but not thought about how it's going to fit into place. I'll be interested to be proven wrong on that, but that is my biggest concern with a lot of the visuals that we're seeing.
That we feel will make the difference for Photon. We're planning a nice
button.
update to it in June with a full release in the coming fall. In June, into ironed out most of the kinks. We really look forward to bring more life and enjoyment into the UI with animations and enjoyable interactions, like this one here for the undock button. I just really would love to undock all day.
Well, it's not a hype versus not hype thing. I'm just you're showing me stuff, and I don't see how it's going to fit together.
Feedback that we feel will make the difference for Photon. We're planning a nice update to it in June with a full release,
or even with the new UI
in the coming fall.
Also, the addition of the loading bars is very awesome.
We can look beyond the basics and how we can improve the immersion and sci-fi feel, for example, by giving players.
So one of the very first visual upgrades that ever happened when I first joined the game was CCP Soundwave went on a campaign that he called, I think it was Kill the Loading Bar. So it used to be that every single time you jumped and every single time you undocked, there was a loading bar for when you undocked, right? And there's like a big deal about the fact that they made the transition smooth enough that they didn't have to do that anymore. You know, it just faded out and fade back in. But now they're putting the loading bar back in? Like, okay.
There's more reasons to look into space and interact with it. And we want to give people more enjoyable interactions. Like in this example here, we will add depth and perspective to make it feel like it belongs more in the world that we're creating. We also want to look at how we interact with the core controls of the game. These are very, very early concepts and explorations to display how the heads-up display could work like an Eve. The HUD reacts to your needs and surroundings. We want to allow you for maximum flexibility. So if, for example, you want to have 4 overview windows open, we want you to be able to do that.
That is the single most exciting thing I've heard all night of the stuff I didn't plan. Seriously, give me multiple overviews and I'm done. That's literally all I need.
Will open up the opportunities for us to bring even more immersion and create a more visual future for the UI and Eve. Thanks a lot, guys.
The idea of having multiple, you're able to move around pieces and elements into a grid and all that stuff. Yeah.
So much goodness.
If you don't think that multiple overviews is exciting,
we covered a lot of ways on
either
how
you
to
haven't
make,
flown around very much, or you haven't really thought through what you could do with that.
And find your path in New Eden.
$1 per extra
that's
overview.
Just half the
I will pay $5 extra for that.
Finding these new recruits willing to take on the challenge of New Eden. And to dominate the world, you need to be everywhere. A couple of years ago, we announced Anywhere, a cloud-based platform that allows Omega players to play.
I'm just stressing that that's the part they need to come out with.
Eve
I don't care.
I
don't care about the modular part or whatever. Just
for Eve,
multiple
as it keeps New Eden at your fingertips and allows you to log on from any computer.
Let me pull the tabs away. I want to be able to go.
Please don't and drive.
And have 2 overview tabs.
It's been amazing to see how well you guys have actually adopted this and given us incredibly important feedback to help us improve the experience. So thank you, thank you. After all this testing, we're at a place where we can actually start scaling up Eve Anywhere. We're actually going to velvet rope this scaling because we don't want things to go up in flame just yet, please. So starting May 16th, we're actually going to open up Eve Anywhere for alpha players in the territories that we're already serving. And then later this year, we will start to expand to new territories.
It's vague, but the short of it is that all of this stuff is supposed to come out in the next year.
Also, over the last few years, we've greatly improved our localized experience in Eve, with better tooling and better delivery.
Winter expansion.
Explosions
all of this is the
language.
Preparation for 20-year anniversary.
We've localized the
That's
game
what I got.
Into Korean, and we're well on our way with our next localized language. Thank you. No. It's the most requested language by players, Spanish.
That's the thing that pissed me off about this. There are so many almost fan service level things that are in here that they're finally giving us.
Is super passionate.
And everybody's like,
it's incredibly resourceful, and they love a good fight. I actually stole this picture from the biggest Spanish Eve community on Facebook.
Like I said, that whole timeline that they show, he specifically says, like, this is the next year.
Their own alliance. So it's going to be pretty interesting where they claim their space. I wonder who's going to give up space for them. Every time we roll out a new language, we learn a lot. When we did Korean, we set up a Korean council, and we worked with a Korean publishing partner to really
No, if they just announced the price increase, people would be fucking rioting. Are you serious?
Kind of what were the niches and so on.
And they'd be physically there to riot.
We're setting up a Spanish player council to collaborate with, but we also want to try something new. Spanish is a very widely spoken language, so we're actually going to roll out an early batch of the Spanish localization in September for the awesome community to give us proper feedback on the translation with a full release later in the year. So, Spanish, woo! So, now that we've covered getting new recruits into your ranks, I think we should take a look at what you have been doing to each other over the last few years.
That felt like
To
a big
kick us
cheese,
off,
right?
please
Because
welcome
you'd think
the
that that
star,
transition would be
the
like, now
legend,
that we're going to see
the
what they do
nicest
when they,
walk-in
get the people into your ranks.
encyclopedia online,
This is what you
my
do
dear
once they're in.
friend, CCP
Nope.
Swift.
We're going to look at the best again.
Thank you, CCP Berger. I don't know about nicest walking encyclopedia, but
Yeah, hey.
I have been a student of EVE Online for
encyclopedia of EVE
since
Online.
I've started playing in 2004. I am fascinated by the stories you tell. I was privileged enough to tell a few stories myself as a player, which was really fun. But we are pretty much the only game that has filled not one, but 2 history books just from player-created stories. Now, whether you're a new player, an old player, PvPer, explorer, builder, sometime in the last couple of years, you've taken part in some sort of invasion. Yeah, there's been a few. The 2 notable ones, obviously, the Triglavian Invasion, when the Triglavians came in and took
Fozzie's events team.
systems. And of course, a lot of you guys here in the audience were in World War II. Yeah. Frank's gone. It's fine. Each of these invasions had kind of different strategies, different metas, different stories,
so they
and of
can
course different
blow it up
results. But there are some neat similarities, and whenever you guys tell a story, we are here to listen to it and kind of figure out how we can enable you to tell even better stories in the future. So yeah, First Blood at Raravos. So this is the first system that the Triglavians actually successfully took. I think this is where,
God, I
for a
still
lot of you
remember that
guys,
night.
at least for me, this is where it kind of clicked. Like the amount of chaos that EVE players could ensue over New Eden, watching this system go from high sec to low sec to null sec. People come in and die. Tens of thousands of you.
I remember my
came in
tweet.
there
I
to
just
try
tweeted
and,
out null
fight
sec and like
against
posted
it.
the security
A lot of
status.
you streamers and content creators brought fleets in here. A lot of null sec people came in and brought fleets in here just to have a good time. And yeah, if Raravos was where you guys figured out that you could create chaos, Niarja is where you guys completely broke through everything. Some incredible players at the
I was
Arataka
working on
Research
Niarja for
Consortium.
literally
I
a
know
year.
I saw Uriel in here somewhere, but I know there's a few of you. When the Triglavians were invading, they were able to kind of map out and find kind of systems that it might work for. And Niarja was a candidate.
This is totally
and
like
of
deceptive,
course,
man.
when
Niarja
push
was
came
the
to shove,
one system we knew was a
No one
candidate.
could really stop this from
It's the
happening.
like
EVE players said,
they
hey,
told us that.
this is a really
like
handy
Triglav told
connection
us that.
between Gita
It was
and
our
Mars.
example
It's the only
of
way to
what
connect these 2 regions together.
Eminence Glory
Wouldn't it be cool
was.
if we just broke it for fun? Yeah, and then you did, and it was miserable for a lot of people, but I think that makes EVE players EVE players. But yeah, this is kind
It
of
was not
where,
just goons.
Really, you guys left your mark, your indelible mark, onto New Eden.
But it was fun to have him there.
But that's not the only invasion. Although some of you guys were in both of them. In fact, many of you were. These 2 kind of did overlap quite a bit. In the summer of 2020, nullsec feels like everywhere went to war. They went south. And again, just like in the Triglavian invasion, there were some interesting strategies, stories, and results. This one is probably my favorite. The game is super old. You guys are very, very adept at coming up with strategies and new ways to kind of trap and kill one another. But Operation Eno was something just completely
My
different,
secret
something that
objective
Eve
for
had never
Invasions,
seen
I never
before.
actually even got a
If you're
chance at, though,
unfamiliar,
which made me very, very
the
sad.
Imperium baited out a Pappy super capital fleet, and then they logged on Titans that were just like pristinely located to try and doomsday them and get them all at once. So it didn't quite work, but I know as someone who was in a Nyx getting doomsdayed, I was like, oh shit. And this is just like one of my favorite moments. It shows the sheer creativity of Eve players. When we introduced like these doomsdays, no one would have suspected that Eve players would come up with something like this.
I love that when they're showing PvE, people are like, "Oh, it's the people that are what's important." When they're talking about what people are doing, they're like, "This is not what we're here for."
As Pappy were getting their foothold into Delve,
No one's gonna. We can't make everybody happy
literal
all the time, I guess.
record-breaking fights broke out.
Always gonna be upset with
FWST, YZ9, they were long, they were bloody, they broke records, and it was nuts just to see how the FCs and the players adapted day to day, week to week. Pappy said, "Hey, I see what these guys are doing. They're warping carriers in. Why don't we just use these bubbles? What could go wrong?" And then the keep star kind of went up. Just amazing ingenuity. Sometimes you think you've got the game figured out, but Eve is very good at humbling you and letting you know that, hey, someone's going to come up with a better idea just around the corner. And you guys are all motivated to come up with the next great idea. So far,
Well, except for in the lore,
slides,
there's
all
actually
the
a whole
cool
thing
things
about
we
that,
learned at
Santiago.
CCP.
So yeah, Caldari and the
keynote
Amar
would be
are
about 6 hours
scrambling
long,
based
and
on
they said I
that.
couldn't do that. But we did learn quite a bit about these two invasions, and kind of learned about how you guys as players interacted. And like I said, when you guys tell stories, we want to listen and kind of give you more about that. So yeah, you guys, completely unpredictable. I was telling someone who didn't really quite understand Eve how ship balance works and how game balance works. And I said, okay, well, if you give Eve players a piece of wood, you might expect like a spear, a sword, something to smack someone with, because you know they're notorious for that. Nope, Eve players would surprise you and build like a bike. You don't know how they did it, but they did it. And now you're like, okay, so they built a bike. I'll give them this rock now. It's new. They're going to build some sort of cool car with it or something. Nope. You guys will build some sort of like trebuchet. And then that's how you'll use this rock that we gave you. But one thing is
More like
true.
they'll
If we
use the
give you
weight,
sand
the rock as a counterweight
and,
to throw the
tools
car.
to mess with the sandbox, you guys will tell amazing stories and just use these tools in ways that we could never imagine. And that's something that we want to keep doing. And so, CCP Burger, tell us a little bit more about how that's going to work out.
Thanks, man.
So it's usually both. It's usually both. Glorification to you, Hoppy.
That's
07.
exactly what we want to do. We want to give you, tools to tell amazing stories, and to create new bonds, and we want New Eden to respond to your actions. And how did we get there? As we mentioned a few months ago, we're moving away from quadrants. After the invasion arc, there were a lot of big and small problems that we had to kind of dive into and deal with. When we were identifying these issues, we saw that like splitting the year up into 4 would really help us on that path. It allowed us to tackle really big things like AFK cloaking, ship iterations, events, new objectives to fight over, new sites, so on and so on and so on. We tackled a lot of hard problems while at the same time rolling out regular events and ship balance updates. But now, with our foundation even more solid, our design team has more freedom to work on this solid base. But we're actually going to go into that a little bit more later. Throughout quadrants, the biggest and most difficult project we took on was resource distribution and gathering. It's a monumental project that really helps us set up for the 3rd decade. To go deeper into this and the effect of this change, and what it means to have a solid foundation, I want to welcome onto the stage a really dear friend of mine. We used to be in a team together. We mostly asked for forgiveness rather than permission. It's my dear CCP Larkin, Look at this today. Look at this. What could possibly go wrong?
Larkin's a good dude. Larkin is one of my favorite.
So, those of you who look at their monthly economic report, this will probably look a little bit familiar.
Oh, this
This
presentation
is the
was
volume
great.
of ore that has been mined over the last year. Specifically, this is all ore that you can refine and turn into a spaceship or a module.
I mean, that's a
that's
pretty
ore
good
from
display as to
asteroid
why the
belts,
Rorqual had to
ore
die.
from moons, anything like that. And we're going to dig into this data a little bit more. And to start with, we're going to go back
Or at least the
10
reign of the
years. So
Rorqual
this is all
needed
the
to
way
die.
back to 2012. And to make it easier to explore this data, we're going to define some time periods. So at the moment, we're in New Dawn. Prior to that is the infamous shortage phase. Before that is the reign of the Rorqual, and we'll be talking about why it's called that shortly. And before that, we also have, during the reign of the Rorqual, during this little red period here, that was actually what Blackout did to the ore being mined. And before that, we have the historic phase. So to continue our exploration, we're going to break down the volume of ore mined by each ship type.
They legitimately should have started with Larkin
This is mining
for the
budgets.
beginning,
Pretty simple.
in my opinion.
In blue, we have exhumers. In yellow, we have every other single ship that has ever fitted a mining laser and mined, excluding the Rorqual.
That is such an impressive graph. That tells the story so fucking clearly.
In fact, during the reign of the Rorqual, Rorquals mined more cubic meters of ore than every other ship combined. And they did it with less players too. In fact,
That's
during
a
the reign of the
huge
Rorqual,
problem,
there was about
guys.
48,000
That's a
unique
huge problem.
characters flying Rorquals compared to 1.6 million
That is an
flying all the
unacceptable
other ship
problem. I'll put it
types.
that way.
So, what happened to all this ore? Where did it go? What did you guys do with it? Well, we're going to look at subcapital ship production by hull size. And don't get me wrong, there's certainly
Problem they made,
variation
absolutely.
during this time
Nobody said it
period,
wasn't,
but
but
on
they
the
still
whole,
have to fix it.
subcapital ship production has actually been pretty stable.
That's why it had, I mean,
What
it
about
hurt. Absolutely.
capitals?
But it was because we were glutting.
This is just super capitals. And during the reign of the Rorqual, on one single day, there were 29 Titans delivered and 47 supercarriers.
That's unbelievable. Unacceptable.
This, is not sustainable. It was a massive concentration of wealth and resources. Now, the goal of shortage phase was the democratization of the economy, to spread that wealth out a little bit. And are we there yet?
If you want a sustainable
we have
game,
some
there might
work
need to
do,
be.
especially around capitals.
Things
as this
wax and
graph will
wane, man.
definitely show. But we're working on it. But we're getting there. We've seen
Yes,
a 10 to
Starkey,
20%
and that's a long story in
increase
and of
in
itself.
the daily volume of
But
ore
we're
mined
here now.
by each character with mining frigates. We've seen a 8 to 16% increase for
That's why I
mining
said, like,
barges.
people weren't happy. Don't
And
let
we've
people
seen a
fucking
30%
pretend like people were
increase for
happy
mining
before
juniors.
scarcity, okay? Scarcity
And
happened
perhaps
for a
more
reason.
importantly, the distribution of ore being mined by region is a little better in New Dawn compared to the reign of the Rorqual. During the reign of the Rorqual, one single region produced 27% of all ore.
What region might that be?
Mining is just one part of the complex ecosystem.
Again, I don't know why they
complex
won the
economy
war.
of
I don't
And
understand.
we're looking at more than just mining, and we're constantly tweaking and working.
It must be solely and exclusively because
But ultimately,
of the servers.
we believe that a
performance.
more equitable distribution of resources results in more players in space, and more players in space makes for a better EVE Online for everyone. If you want to know more, please come to the data presentation roundtable. Cheers.
I was sad. No, come back, Larkin. Show more.
Equitable distribution of resources. Larkin, you really, 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 really make EVE sound like spreadsheets in space. It's hard to be a creative director sometimes when you have all this spreadsheet loving. But you know, as you all know, strategic plans for world
EVE
domination
Online, we make
definitely require
spreadsheets sexy.
deep planning, and we've seen corporations and alliances actually invest a lot into data, you know, for intelligence or efficiency or what you may have it.
Sure,
and the
but
initial
a
knowledge
disequal
and the cost of setting up these systems can be
distribution of resources sort of implies a lack of
and
equality
with this
of
in mind,
opportunity.
we actually reached out to our friends at Microsoft Excel.
I really, really wish.
I'm not lying. We actually reached out to them, and they were like, "Oh my God, we love EVE."
I bet they were.
Like I was saying, data is massively important to many advanced playstyles in EVE.
So first of all,
And
CCP
by
wants me to spend
simplifying the
more
access
for
to
EVE.
data for all,
Not that I actually
will
have to.
level
But
the playground
CCP wants
when
me
it
to spend
comes
more
to
for
the
EVE,
tools.
and now I have to buy Excel?
With
Get
Microsoft,
wrecked.
we're building an extension that
Bring
will
it
allow
to
players
Google-
log
Google
in
Sheets.
and pull data directly into Excel.
I am going to have to get Excel now. That's what. Fuck.
It's not April
I'm going to
Fool's,
request to
this is
see if I can
reals.
get
And this is a real
an
prototype
Excel
working.
subscription as part of my EVE partner program.
If it's for you know, satisfying your curiosity, if it's for
Can I get an
you know,
Excel subscription
maximize
with
your
my Omega,
industrial
please?
enterprise or managing your frontline warfare, it's in
No, this
your
is awesome
hands
because
to
like
create
this
the
fixes
tools
so like this
for
is
your
the
app.
SDK.
This is still in early phase.
This is the
and
SDE
we look
on
forward
tap.
to sharing
This is
more
so
later
fucking
in the
useful
year.
on so many different levels.
But this is pretty wild stuff.
I mean, it looks fun or like it's funny or whatever, but like unironically, this is going to be great. It's such a pain in
Even
the
though
butt
many
to do
claim
this
that mining is a numbers game,
Sheets right now.
we want to give you more reasons to look at space. And throughout our work on the new player experience, we've been developing a lot of new tools. Among others,
No, Hunters,
a
I
new
don't think
way
that's going to ever
create
end at this point.
Huge megaroids in space. We want to dress up the mining scenes. We want to make them exciting. We want to make them fun to look at and engaging. To begin with, you will not be able to interact with those megaroids, but you know, who knows what the future.
Wait a minute, I just realized something. I wonder if this has anything to do with the fact that CCP Torbjorn, no, not Torbjorn, Tofi Franz went to Microsoft.
And on the topic of visuals, one of EVE's signature is the consistent and beautiful visuals and audio. The visual experience is a key contributor on our vision pillar of the ultimate sci-fi experience, where capsuleers are
That's what you come here for.
the day-to-day.
That's why you're not watching it on your own.
Into the future. Audio and visuals are an evolving moving target, with new technology unlocking new ways to make the world even more.
Is it a little bit ironic that his sound gets a little bit too loud right as he says the word
to set up
sound?
for the third decade, it's important to never settle into set ways and be constantly searching, pushing, and reevaluating how we present new Eden. And to tell you more about that and give you a small glimpse into the future of EVE, I want to invite the wizard CCP Mirkur, that through his beautiful magic makes everything fun to blow up. And his enabler, CCP Caffeine, who allows you all to blow up a lot of stuff at the same time. Take it away.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's absolutely fantastic seeing people in person. It's been a crazy few years, that's for sure.
Great to be back at Fanfest, guys.
Absolutely. So
That
the
guy
last
on the right
few years
is really
for us,
cool.
We've made some
they're both
absolutely
pretty cool, but
massive technical investments in the
I really
plant.
like the guy. on the right.
In 2020, we went 64-bit entirely. There's not a single bit of 32-bit code left in EVE Online.
Big deal.
So this was really focusing on cleaning up some of that technical debt, which we all joke about and has been kicking around for a long time. And we finally got there. This offers much better performance, especially in those kind of big wars that you keep having. You can bring more ships than ever after this 64-bit upgrade. With the foundation set, we were finally able to port EVE Online natively to an entirely different operating system where we released the native Mac client. There is way more Mac players than most people realize. It's very, very popular with EVE players. So we did the 64-bit, we ported it to Mac OS, we rebuilt our entire pipeline internally of how we
Why
built
isn't
the
it on
client.
Steam Deck?
And again,
Shouldn't it be
we
on Steam
removed a
Deck?
massive amount of
on
technical
Steam.
debt for this. We could finally say goodbye to our old wine client. And if there are Mac users in here that use that wine client, we know it was in a bit of a bad state. So
See, I said they were going to port Eve into Skyrim.
improved it.
Or Skyrim into Eve, one of the two.
We also launched with M1 support from day one. This was great. It had a massive uptake, way bigger again than we actually thought it would be. And the Mac client is now on par in terms of how it looks and how it plays with our Windows client. Actually, with one exception, and that is to Skill Plans, which is coming in the release next month. As part of this work, we really started the main development to make EVE as platform agnostic as possible. So we're in the best situation we could ever be in if we want to target other operating systems and other architectures in the future. Once we released the Mac client, we could finally get rid of DirectX 9. So I don't know how many of you have the original
I legitimately
box,
thought we had already transitioned to
many of
DirectX
you
12, and that was
cool.
one of the reasons why I
So
thought we
if
were
you actually
further
check
along
out
in
the
development
disc on
than we
that,
were,
we had to
honestly.
install DirectX
I
9
had
as
forgotten
part
that
of
they
the
hadn't actually
EVE
come out with
installation.
DirectX 12 yet.
It's been with us basically from the start. It's the best part of 20 years old, DirectX 9. It was taking up significant
Switching to
development
DirectX 12 is
resources
such a
internally,
huge fucking deal,
and
guys.
we couldn't offer a lot of the features that we wanted to offer you on DirectX 9. Every single feature we wanted to put into EVE needed an implementation for this. Opportunity cost for it was just too great. On the plus side, by removing DirectX 9, it does mean now we can focus on bringing you DirectX 12, which will be shipping this year. We have a working version internally. We'll be announcing the mass tests for this very shortly. It's actually not far off. So while we're excited to be shipping DirectX 12
That
to
actually,
you
in the
and
end,
looking at
may
what we
end
can
up
bring
being
to
the
you,
biggest announcement of this entire
we have
night,
managed
by
to
the way.
ship some pretty big
Like,
graphical updates
4 years from
this
now.
year on our current tech.
Like, the
Updates
transition to DirectX 12 could be the most significant
Bring
change
out
that,
Eve's
was,
colors,
that has been
which
announced.
saw us
Fanfest,
delete
or the
gray
Faction
and
Warfare stuff
deepen
might be up
Eve's
there, but
output
like,
colors to a much wider range by updating our tone mapper to something much nicer, as you can see right here. There we also adjusted the overall look of EVE, updating our shaders to take in more of the environment. Ships now really feel like they're inside the world. Wherever you are in the universe, they look like they're there. And after all, one of the pillars of EVE Online since the very beginning has been the pursuit of beautiful graphics. And our investments into the tools to make those over the last couple of years accumulated and paid massive dividends in upping the quality of the new player experience, paving the path with exciting and dynamic visuals, as well as engaging first steps content for your soldiers and troops of tomorrow to walk down. And even if the new player experience is the catalyst, then in the long run, everyone will benefit.
yeah, think about it as DirectX as being like the rendering medium.
We spent
So
time
a
on
higher
improving our
DirectX 12 means
reflections to
way more tools
aid
when it comes
make
to
these environments
graphical
look even better.
enhancements.
More things are now reflected in real time, and this is cool because you can see things like explosions reflect on ships now. Things like wormholes also now reflecting on your ships. Sino beacons, stations, jump gates, they're all included in reflections now. These little additions across the game are making EVE just, that little bit more realistic. So where you are, things are reflecting on you.
All right, so what's next? Just a disclaimer that everything that you will see is work in progress and
They would have
is
to rebuild
subject
the client
to
from
change.
scratch, but yeah, I mean, like, there's no reason why it
So
couldn't
the first
be
one,
in
and as a player myself, I'm super excited for this one, is
that I know
high
of.
resolution nebulas.
But they've already put so much work into
This
their
is
own
coming
client.
in
This
the June release.
This is
We've
one of those
doubled the
things that like
resolution.
had me super excited,
With
and then I was like,
significantly
nobody else
expanding,
I was like,
we've
oh,
also
the
changed the
presentation
type
doesn't
of
show
compression
anything.
that we
But
use.
I've been
And
complaining
these
about
look
the
absolutely
nebulas
amazing
for a
in
while
game.
now.
We've also entirely
And
overhauled
this-
what we call our level of detail system. So all games use this.
If
you're
this
not
doesn't
familiar
have
with
you
it,
pump-
it's how we render things like polygons.
When they
and
talk about
textures
stuff for
based on the
older
distance
players,
from
and
the
you say that
camera.
fights are the thing that you're here for,
The new system
this right
we're
here
using
that they're
has been
saying
rewritten from scratch
what's gonna
because the
fucking
existing
save your
one
life.
It's as old as the
This
game
is
itself.
so
It's
big.
19 years old, so it needed a bit of love.
this is the difference
We used
between
to
a
have
game that's
3
designed in
levels before,
2004 and a game that's designed in
actually quite
2015.
restrictive for
I'm
the
not even
artists.
fucking joking. Having
Now
a
we've
proper
got as
LOD
many
system
as we
is
need.
how you get
This
performance.
fits really nicely into being able to make absolutely huge scenes. It also allows us to do things like automatic
Right,
switching.
tie-dye is about the
So
processing
I'm
of
sure
things,
we've
but
all
like
seen this in
the
client
rendering
at
of
the
it.
moment. You'll change your camera, and things will kind of snap in between different models. That will be gone.
Tie-dye
Also,
server side, that's
better
correct, right?
performance. And this is particularly noticeable
Yes, Dragon,
for
you know what
anyone
you're-
on a mid
whatever,
or a
fuck off.
low-end machine. Because we have to render less polygons now, you get a higher frame rate. And also, we can create higher fidelity meshes. You may have already seen a few sneak peeks of these in some of the slides already. The LOD improvements aren't just about polygons, though. They also relate to things like textures and how we instance things inside of the game. So previously, we could only ever change a texture on a model when we change the model. That's no longer the case. We can change them independently. Doesn't sound like much, but that's an absolute massive boom.
Let me try to actually translate this into why this matters for us. Because CCP Dragon did just kind of stab me a little bit with this whole, like, it doesn't help tie-dye. So people might be like, oh, this isn't going to change anything about big fights because I don't care about visuals about big fights. Here's the problem, okay? Technical limitations must be taken into consideration when designing things, right? So if you know you can't have too many cool things on the field, then you have to prevent how many cool things are on the field. Specifically, the fact that a structure couldn't, like multiple structures couldn't work together and they didn't want it to spiral out of control was because, like, in every step of the design of skins, of encounters, of everything, they must keep in mind performance. And so making better performance gives them more freedom as designers. That is why it matters to us. Not just because it looks pretty.
To being able to do things like put 1,000 keep stars on grid and then fly through them without any performance.
We can be
impact,
dismissive of other
compared to what we had before,
things, but
anyway.
like them as developers
Please don't
can't.
try and do that. That's not a challenge. We've not shipped it yet. I know that you're going to use it in a way we haven't predicted and then probably have to redevelop a few things. But it's absolutely awesome. We can genuinely make these huge areas of space now with models that are absolutely massive. It also feeds into other things like attachments, which you're probably very familiar with from turrets, and also things like particle systems. They really leverage the advantage of this.
By the way, it's my stream that's snagging, not the video.
Hello? Okay, good. Yeah.
Like-
So one of these new things is lit particles. We just implemented these for us to start using, which for my visual effects artist self is just like, it's an exciting time. It's great. And this is an example of what that might look like.
Oh yeah,
This
this
basically means that newly authored particle systems can now receive light from nearby light sources.
I don't think that people, like, it took me a few seconds to realize what's going on here and why they're showing it off, okay? So there's two things that are exciting about this particular little clip. One, the lightning is cool, obviously, but we already have flashing lights when it sparks and stuff like that. What you're really seeing here, and the whole idea of lit particles doesn't just mean that it can emanate light, it's that it reacts to light. The thing that we're looking at here is the smoke around it and how the smoke is interacting with the flashes of light, okay?
Basically means that newly authored particle systems can now receive light from nearby light sources or from the local star.
Oh, it didn't seem...
Expect us
okay,
to get a lot better at using these over time. Right now, it's very much early days, but I think you can see this holds a lot of promise. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I've always really enjoyed this one particular moment from the Birth of the Capsuleer trailer. Our cinematics team did a great job, as usual, and we've been thinking, could we do something like that in-game? Something inspired by that? You want to see what we have so far? Yeah! Now, okay, I have to say a couple of things first. In the following video, just focus on the ship. Some parts have been sped up, and it is work in progress.
So it is raining hard outside. Let's hope I hang in there.
Yeah, I forgot to click.
Shh. I'm not a big fan of the smoke. I'm the opposite of a big fan of the smoke.
What was that?
Honestly.
Well, anyways, this is just a little part of what investing in our foundations brings. Investing in our engine, in our tooling, and we're doing a lot of that, which is giving us the ability, unlocking and enabling us to do things that are simply higher quality, simply way cooler, and more awesome things than ever before. And this all leads into the Eve of tomorrow being more beautiful, a more immersive and visceral experience. Yep.
Of course, this is a lot of graphical enhancements that we're putting in the client, and we want to make sure as many people as possible can enjoy these. So one of the integrations that we'll be doing this year is AMD's Fidelity FX Super Resolution, which will allow you to play the game at a higher resolution at a lower performance cost. In addition to that, we'll also be adding FreeSync. So if you have a FreeSync compatible monitor, you'll be able to enjoy the smoothest experience so far without any screen tearing whatsoever.
Trying to on-hack audio balancing, guys. Sorry about that.
Yeah. If you like some of that and you want to know more, or just happen to enjoy pleasingly arranged pixels, and want to see what we're planning on doing with them, then come to the Art of Eve into the third decade presentation right in this room at 3 p.m. today. We have a presentation that is absolutely packed to the brim to show you. And stop by the art corner, somewhere up there in the building, and say hi. The artists, they don't bite. You know. They want to hear from you.
Uh-oh. Hold on. Hold on. Speaking of which, oh God. My connection. I paused the video. Can you guys hear me? Uh-oh. Hello? Hello? Okay, it's back. I'm watching it. I'm going to let it hang out. Yep, you're right. I'm back to stable. I'm going to let it hold on for a second. I think we're back. I think we're okay. We're going to keep going. Yeah. I'm telling you guys, like, it is, like, legit, like, I haven't seen it rain that hard in a long time.
If you're interested on how we build EVE Online, the journey to a native Mac client, or perhaps you just want to chat about DirectX, then drop by the roundtable tomorrow at 10
as soon as I saw it go red, I paused it.
And we would love to hear any ideas that you've got, as well as show you what we're currently working on. Thank you, Fanfest.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful stuff. So, when trying to understand New Eden, it's really good to look at a city. The city has plenty of system functions, like buildings, infrastructure, schools, and so on. And
This is where I get really confused if they're not
top
going to
of
be
that,
ready to talk about
the city has its inhabitants, people, animals, plants, trees. The actual city happens at the intersection of the two, filled with agenda, emotion, compromise, and so on. You have the more secure parts of town where you can go about your business without too much harassment. But there's always the east side, you know, if you're into that. Each player and classic empire of EVE can be viewed as a city-state, where interests of each faction is built around their beliefs, their needs, and their needs drive their agenda. Conflict or compromise, it's in your hands to navigate. But unlike the real city, our inhabitants' ability to shape the world is quite limited. We strive to create virtual worlds more meaningful than real life. And in many ways, we do. You know, you guys seem to like the game and the world. Friendships are formed, big achievements conquered, beautiful things are built and then destroyed, as it should. But once you look past the incredible player simulation, the world is pretty static and predictable. We'll always have multiple parallel simulations going on at the same time. But it's time to elevate the empire and the universe simulation. We use this as basis for 3 vision pillars for challenging you all, the core. I belong here. I want to take you a few years into the future again to talk a little more about that. New Eden is colored by the people that occupy it. Inhabitants claim their stake and become masters of their surroundings. EVE Online is and has always been about people dealing with people. And this goes way beyond PvP or trade. From selecting another player to entering a new space, you can always read a story. From metals showing achievements to megastructures honoring the rulers of that given system.
Yeah, this is cool.
Cruel, but fair. New Eden's rules of engagement are clear and consistent, and I can apply the knowledge from one part to the next.
I want to stress the fact that he's not saying
this
is how it is.
Lies in the environment.
This is a vision for what they want to make sure it becomes. Let me. Hold on.
Even though some fight, the real difference lies in the environment and the people that occupy each system. Even though some of the changes are out of my area of control, I feel my influence.
Sorry, my son's about to get home, so we're kind of figuring out coordination.
When things go wrong, I can see how it happened, adapt, and continue. Vibrant metropolis. New Eden
Everything
is
he just said there is so
where
critical.
Systems and emotions build a perfect, vibrant metropolis. As you travel through the regions, you're reminded of Earth cities from 21,000 years ago, where the streets tell the story of the people that have claimed it their home. And just like the city, it never stops. It's in your hands to shape it to your needs. EVE Online happens when the constraints of the system meets the dwellers of New Eden. The universe is alive and kicking, and it's in our hands to make it what we want. If it's influencing the imperial agenda or setting course for your own empire, one thing is for sure, the world will never be the same again. To dive deeper in how we're taking these vision pillars and applying them to our work, I want to invite 3 great friends. CCP Ratari, who was once a financial guy. I'm sure you don't know that, but he was an avid FPS player, so he ended up just doing games, which is way better. Then we have CCP Loki, the one-man production team behind the scope, and I guess he's like the Swiss Army knife of CCP. And then CCP Aurora. I mean, we should call her CCP Super Ninja Star. I mean, she's amazing.
What a meteoric rise, man. CCP Aurora. I'm so glad that she's on the team now, man.
So thank you, Birger, for that presentation or introduction to me. We're here, and we're ready to talk about the future of the living universe. Now that we have a solid foundation, our plans are ambitious and achievable. So let's get right into it. EVE players are a big family. And this is my 15th Fanfest as a CCP developer. And to me, Fanfest is a family reunion with food and drinks and relatives that you're not sure you missed. But you all made it, and we're all here together. And it makes me really happy to know that you all had a second family during the last 2 or 3 years. But we're not just a family. We're all members of different groups, both formal and informal. Some are welcoming, some are invite-only, some are merit-based, and some are simply circumstance. When we belong to a group, you've already gone through 3 stages. Categorization, who am I, and which group do I identify with? And you're also in identification, who are the other groups, and how do they look and behave? And ultimately, in comparison, how are they like me, and how are they unlike me? For these 3 stages, it's good to have a common language. Humans thrive off of creating emotional response to others, such as fear, respect, or desire. And within the EVE community, there are 3 strongest emotions that we identify. Unity, I have a sense of belonging.
Paragon got a lot of
Valor,
flack for it,
I'm
but
proud
it's
to
this
be one of
guy's
the best.
comments that got me the
And
most.
duty, I help each other and feel good about it.
That I feel is the
And
most
we want you to help
questionable
you
from earlier.
to express those to others. Now, social expression was not invented in the 20th century. Lords on the battlefield needed to identify each other. They needed to either attack or avoid or flee an opponent and rally their troops. Through heraldry, they would express heritage, achievements, experience, importance, and wealth. So how do I see myself, and most importantly, how do others see me? And what do I want them to understand about me? I'm a badass with tattoos. I fly a blinged battleship. I'm a proud member of university. But I'm also holding a high Kaldari rank. And I'm an Alliance tournament winner. And I feel kinship with the Charistas. Which brings us to who are we and what do we stand for? We're World War B survivors. We're charitable. We're friends in real life, and we come to FanFest to meet each other. And we're proud to present our vision of heraldry for EVE Online and a path to the following elements of achievement. Alliance logos and patterns on ships.
Boom! That's actually really sexy looking.
The supercarrier holograms unlocked incredible opportunities. Holograms that change and grow based on your achievement, like standings or kill marks.
I am here for this. Holy shit. Oh my god.
And attachments.
And this is when I was like, oh, okay. Fine. We're going there.
Unlocked by the new art and graphics technology presented before.
Yeah, about
next
that logic.
year.
No. Bring it back in. CCP Rotati. CCP Rotati promised Logi on kill mails. Everybody mark that on the calendars.
And structure skins, ambience, and logos.
I do. Structure skins are great. If they end up implementing structure skins the way I suggested, I swear to God, I'm going to just start dancing around or something.
And a vision of a fully customizable structure and ship.
That's so cool. Caldari Prime Pony Club is like, what am I, some sort of joke to you?
Will be acquired through Interbus credits, a new in-game currency that cannot be bought directly, only earned.
Right now, this is when I stopped having fun.
It can never be traded between characters, cannot be sold, and does not have an exchange rate to any real money, Plex, ISK, or any other currency.
This cheer confused the hell out of me. People don't understand. This is not a cheer point.
Every character can generate Interbus credits through select activities engagement.
This is
Made for players, by players, is the first activity.
no, it's not
that will
LP. It's
grant
terrible. It's
IBCs. I'll talk more about
hold on.
that at our 11 presentation.
Okay, hold on.
tomorrow.
Let's.
In addition, characters will generate IBCs to their corporation. By players is the first activity that will grant.
So this is the people were. I was talking to somebody about this afterwards, and they didn't quite understand. Maybe it was Rushlock. Oh shit! I need to not die. Hold on, I'm gonna die. No, not really, but okay. So there's a question of why I was so terrified by this. Okay, so if you guys remember, a few months ago, or like with the Retriever sale pack, and they were like, "Oh, we're thinking about doing a new thing," and da da da. But we'll contribute, and we'll get more details about that later. At that time, I said the worst case scenario is we're going like mobile game style, where they're going to introduce a brand new currency that you can only earn by doing this thing, and then you buy new things. So here we are. Let's listen to the name of the program.
Engagement. Made for players, by players, is the first activity that will grant IBCs.
The question is,
talk more about that
it
at
really
our
seems like we're going to be
presentation
building the stuff so that way
In
they can
addition,
sell packs
characters will
for
generate
cash.
IBCs to their
However you feel
corporation
about
while
that.
they are members. So corporations and
That's
players
it.
can both buy heraldry.
It's not even
which is
pay to
non-trade.
earn, because pay to earn implies that you would actually get money for it. No, you just get a skin.
And Omega is the key. It already grants stable XP and access to all skills, but Omega Clone State will give a major boost to any and all acquisition of IBC.
Oh, it's a major boost.
For those that are interested,
not
I'll
required.
cover this core loop and explain Interbus credits in full detail tomorrow.
I'm super. No, it's not even guild because it's individual. I'm so.
This
it's
obviously
not
needs
great.
updates to
It's not
the
great. No, no, no. It's closer to like
So we'll
Concord
unify the
points
experience between
in
heraldry
Echoes.
and modules. And here's a very quick visualization of what it could look like with these new opportunities. Logos, holograms, logos,
I mean,
dies.
it is kind of cool the fact that they're actually like making it
CEO
diegetic,
holograms.
but the whole thing like
And
isn't great
who
from
wants
start.
to build a statue of their CEO or even yourself? I think that's a pretty good goal.
But at the same time, I guess the other hand of it is that with
And
it
this is
being
the
tied
full-
directly to money,
full suite.
it's easier for them to allocate resources to actually
So-
make it happen. I mean, that's just
Pausing a
that's
bit,
the sad
we're
but
hard
true
at
truth
work
of things.
for multi-account benefits. And progress against this fairly long roadmap is very promising. We're absolutely committed to a tiered reward system to benefit our veterans. And I have no further update today, nor this FanFest, but this is a high priority for us. Just wanted you to know that. But we all want stronger.
No, so okay, what I think that they're doing with this, based on what they said before and what they're saying right now, is that basically, imagine this: Concord says, "Okay, we're going to do the Caldari booster mode, right? So we need your help. We need everybody. If you turn in Caracals or Tech 1 shield boosters, missile launchers, rapid light missile launchers, et cetera, all these different pieces. You turn them in. When you turn them in, you get a certain amount of interstellar interbus points. They then track how many of them that people turn in, and they turn around, and that's the pool from which they sell ships for cash to the player base in packages like the Retriever pack. So that's why it's for money. They're not getting money. You're not paying money for the interbest points, but you're giving them something that they then will turn around and sell for money and justify it with the fact that it's all diegetic and in universe. And we built the stuff. They're just the middleman, right? That's why.
Organizations that can recruit, train, and retain.
It's unlocking
users.
a new revenue
This is
stream
why
for
we're
them,
investing
basically,
in a lot of support,
by justifying
like better
it.
tools, social income, which I'll talk about tomorrow, analytics and planning through spreadsheets and space, improved retention, and with a particular focus on less.
Well, they want to be able to sell ships to
and
people,
smarter training,
but
as we've
they also don't
seen
want to piss
today.
us off, so they've got to figure out a way to make it okay
career
for
program,
us.
And improved career agents. So we're going to be investing heavily into the Vibrant Metropolis pillar because it's important for both new and old players to log in every day and feel that the world is living,
Well, they can't let
breathing,
us sell it
and
ourselves.
adapting and filled with new opportunities.
That's a
This is a
different kind
real
of bad.
commitment and not something we can do in a patch or two. But we're not going to go into a cave either and come out with a perfect solution.
Okay, so I've talked about this before on other streams, but the reason why they want to do this is because it doesn't matter how many steps they give to the new player. The step of actually being able to put together a ship itself is the biggest hurdle, right? So I can give you all the Plex in a pack. I can give you, you know, a skin to give you an idea as to what it is that you want, you know, all this kind of stuff. But a new player won't understand or be inspired or enough to actually then turn around and turn it into something meaningful. So they discovered this with the Destroyer pack, and it was reconfirmed with the Retriever pack that, you know, ultimately, here's the issue. It doesn't matter how much we don't like it. The stats do not lie. Players that buy these packs not only are happy with the packs, but they stay with the game. It increases player retention for people to have bought one of these packs. That's just what the stats show. I'm sorry.
In 12 months. We want to keep the rapid release
I don't like it
spirit
either,
alive,
but it is true.
Adjust, iterate, and improve.
And
I hope to see you again
what it
tomorrow
says about
when
us
we
is
share
that we have a
additional
game
news
that
about
doesn't
this.
teach people how to fit a ship.
But now I'd like to welcome CCP Aurora, who will explain to us what this strategic commitment really is.
I recommend going back and watching my video about magic retrievers on my YouTube
Thank you very much.
for my feelings on this. More.
All
in-depth.
right, everyone. Hello.
Now it's time for the hero to save the fucking
So, let's talk
presentation.
about gameplay. In particular, let's talk about faction warfare.
And this is when my hat
I am
gets saved.
very pleased to announce that the Living Universe team will be dedicated to faction warfare for not just the next release, but potentially the next few years.
So that statement's super important.
Faction
It means
warfare
that
is
faction
an
warfare is not just a
incredible
revamp, it's the
area
avenue
of
by
game
which this new
with
Living
many
Universe
more
thing is going to be
incredible
birthed into the
stories that
world.
have been formed in it. However, as we know, it's also an area of the game that has really needed some love for quite some time. We are committed to faction warfare as our primary focus, not just for a single update or even a whole expansion, but potentially for years to come. We're looking at faction warfare as an avenue to deliver new content to the game.
It doesn't matter how proud you are.
This
Being on
could
stage like
include
this can
things
make
like
anybody
updates to
nervous.
structures, to territory control, how you take sovereignty or how you capture faction warfare systems, plus balance, new modules. Almost everything could be delivered through faction warfare stories driven by you as the players. To accomplish our goals in faction warfare, we need to update how players declare their allegiances to
Hold on. What's up, MidnightSpaceMonkey? We've paused. Let's go back.
delivered through faction warfare stories driven by you as the players. To accomplish
Nope.
It's also an area of the game that has really needed some love for quite some time.
Did I go back far enough?
We're committed to faction warfare as our primary focus, not just for a single update or even a whole expansion, but potentially for years to come. We're looking at faction warfare as an avenue to deliver new content to the game. This could include things like updates to structures, to territory control, how you take sovereignty or how you capture faction warfare systems.
Oh, I get it.
Plus balance, new modules. Almost everything could be delivered through faction warfare stories driven by you as the
Okay, so this could have meant one of two things, all right? It could mean either, and honestly, by the way, I don't believe that they know what they meant when they said this between these two, because it's still pretty wishy-washy, right? But it's either that she's discussing specifically referring to SOV as in faction warfare control in SOV, because she kind of immediately says right afterwards. But I think it's actually, I'm not going to say that with confidence, Dragon. What I'm saying is that things may still be fluid, you know? But what it seems like more that, let's say they're going to change, let's rewind back to Domination, or Dominion, right? And they're switching over to Fuzzy Sov. rather than simply say that things happen, right? And maybe have some world news articles and poof, we have Entosis links. The development of the Entosis links would actually happen in the context of faction warfare. And then once developed, it would be taken by the nullsects in order to do their thing. I think that that's more of what they were talking about, that the concepts will be introduced through this fluid storytelling system that is tied into faction warfare. Because again, faction warfare is no longer about finishing plexes and gaining LP. Faction warfare is about being the muscle arm of the different empires, being the will of the empire enacted in space. That's what faction warfare is about now.
The players. To accomplish our goals in faction warfare, we need to update how players declare their allegiances to factions in EVE. We'll be introducing a new allegiance system. So instead of having to join a specific corporation inside a specific alliance to join a militia, instead you can simply declare your allegiance inside your current group.
Well, I imagine that if that happens, then that'll invoke a special type of arc.
The new allegiance system will be separate from, but connected to, the standing system. So, for example, you may not even have to...
I'm so happy about this.
You may be able to simply declare allegiance to any
It's
group
so
that you
huge.
choose.
This
However,
is it.
they might not accept you if your standings are not high enough. If they don't like you, they don't want you.
Like this right here is
And you should be
unironically one
able
of
to
the
align
biggest
yourself with a
things.
faction of your choice, whether that be
people don't
an
understand.
Empire faction, or perhaps one day, even a pirate faction.
If you don't think that that was huge...
And of course, the factions in EVE are wide and varied. They each have their own agendas, the things that they want to accomplish. And they are going to have their own goals in the game.
Hold on.
And to their army...
Let me explain why that's a huge thing, okay? Let me just give you an idea as to what the difference between having standings and having allegiance is, okay? Dragon, when you're ready to, you better be in my DMs, okay? But standings, you have to do a specific thing to do standings. Oh, holy cow. All right, thank you very much for that. MidnightSpaceMonkey 07 with those 10 gifted T1 subs. GM Trail, Broken Fridge, Gabriel Knight, Groovy Pixel, Shaldis, Gurgle Melon, You Know It, Wooks, Faff, You, Hard Stoner. On behalf of all of you, thank you, Midnight Space Monkeys, Space Monkey 07, fucking champion. Good dude. Good dude. Oh yeah, I appreciate it, man. Okay, so when you go and do a mission, when you go into a mission for a group, if you want to gain standings with the Caldari Navy, you have to go do missions for the Caldari Navy. If you want to gain Triglavian standings, you have to go and specifically kill Edencom and Triglav and road drones and all that stuff, right? So the thing that you do determines the standings that you get. The difference between that and allegiance is that in an allegiance system, everything you do could actually benefit your chosen allegiance, right? So now, as you do missions, as you move forward, as long as what you're doing, just like with with the Capsuleer Day thing, where you're now picking a side, right? It's not necessarily about the specific thing that you're doing now. It's about who you're doing it for. And I really like that idea. It's not two separate systems necessarily. It's augmentation of the original system. That's so much better.
Armies and their allied players, they're going to pass down objectives to you to ask them to...
This is living
for help
universe.
completing.
This is living universe.
Players that help their faction achieve their objectives will be rewarded. And the success or failure of these objectives is not predetermined. If we tie a feature to the game, for example, the Caldari are working on a new Navy ship or something along those lines, and they fail in their objective, It may simply not be released.
That's so hot.
At least for some time. Whatever the...
But the reason why I say that's so hot is not because I'm cruel. I'm like, it's not going to come out. No. This whole point of that is to make it so that... So, as the quote-unquote lore guy, or, in my position, one of the biggest things I get frustrated with is the fact that I'm, like, how out of touch most players are, right? Like, I'm always having to kind of, like, explain very basic things that are in the New Eden news, things that, like, should be common knowledge upon the player base. Now, this isn't the fault of the player base. This is the fault of the design of the game. So, by having these things be part of it, right? By having, just like with the T3 cruiser, or sorry, T3 destroyer thing, right? Even though that didn't necessarily control the stuff, or the Stargates, people wanted to influence it. That's what got people excited about it. As soon as you make it so that we have to do something, or it doesn't work out, that makes people invested, which makes people dialed in, which makes people be able to get more enjoyment out of it, right? Like, what if the reason why you're not enjoying things isn't because there isn't things to enjoy, but that you aren't even aware that they are there because they haven't been brought to your attention? That's the true tragedy.
The outcome, you will leave a lasting impact on the shape of New Eden. As a faction loyalist, we want you to be able to display your loyalty proudly through systems such as the heraldry system, which CCP Rattati just introduced, and be rewarded for your loyalty as you fight for them, both as you help them achieve their objectives and simply for following them through time, win or lose. Now let's take a look at the state of faction warfare. At the moment, there's 108.
Hey, Dragon, if you want to hop on for a little bit, do you want to hop on now, or do we want to just wait? Because it's almost done with the presentation, right? Do you want to wait till after the presentation?
These systems in faction warfare. Each of them are nearly identical in terms of gameplay. Players fight over control of these systems, but the territory itself doesn't mean very much, beyond where you choose to maybe set up your gate camp. The capture of a system plays almost no role on the space around it. If you capture a system, there's no effect on the neighboring systems. There's very little detail to the shape of space. Where
Preach it, sister!
With this in mind, we're looking to add more meaning to the geography of space and faction warfare, and eventually beyond. And we're looking to accomplish this by creating a frontline system. This would be a dynamic system where if you capture space, it will change the nature of the space that you're in. For example, in this example, if you're in a system which borders an enemy-controlled system, that system will be declared a frontline. These systems would have new content, higher rewards, and strategic advantage for fighting in them. We're also looking to update the tempo of faction warfare space such that these systems would be slightly faster to capture than the surrounding space.
Funny you should say that, Lithrax.
If you want to push into enemy territory, it might be better to do so from a front line. Not that it's
Why would I need a new
faction
warfare core?
I
have a faction warfare core
in their backlines. Systems adjacent to the front line would also be somewhat unique. So these are systems that are adjacent to the front lines, but not adjacent.
Immediately when I saw this, you know what I thought? Border systems, internal systems, and home systems.
To an enemy-controlled system. We're currently calling these command operation systems. These systems would have their own unique traits, content, and tactical value. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. All of these systems, all other systems that are neither a frontline or command operation system would be designated as rearguard systems. Rearguard systems may be less lucrative in terms of faction warfare rewards and slower to flip. However, it may still be possible to sneak past and attack them from behind.
Yeah, wouldn't this be so much better than ADM? Just imagine this system replacing ADM.
On top of the frontline system, we're also looking to build a new system of objectives. Rather than simply an endless tug of war as faction warfare is now, we want the factions of New Eden to declare objectives in space, and we want them to be real and meaningful things that you can help them accomplish. Players
Someone
allied with their
listens to
factions
me.
will be able to clearly see what their faction's objective is, and they'll have to work with the frontline system to push it into that space, capture it, achieve their objective, and be rewarded appropriately.
I'm just so happy.
When and if they succeed. Frontline systems are still in the exploration phase, and we'll be talking with you more about these concepts at the Faction Warfare Roundtable.
I don't know if you guys are
more
all
near
upset, but
future,
I got
the
exactly what
update
I
is
wanted.
slated to hit Tranquility this coming Tuesday. This is the key art from that. This update features reductions in the cost of all of the capital ships, creating a very clear balance scaling from dreadnoughts to carriers to faxes. It also contains updates to the reinforcement of medium structures, which we're not done with. Speaking of structures,
That's ominous, isn't it?
structures are an integral part of the ecosystem. We want to make sure that there's a healthy balance for them in all areas of space.
That's what
And
they
we
just
wanna
said, Frankie.
ensure
Yes.
that the experience that you have when using them is a good one. It should be as epic and large scale as it is when you are undocked.
That's the whole point of
Even
the
that-
allegiance system.
And you guys spend a lot of time docked. Like, a lot of time. It's kind of a problem, actually. You should. Anyway.
Well, as I said, like this technology could like roll out. And
Given
whatnot.
that that's unlikely to change anytime soon, we want to ensure that your experience while docked is a really good one. It should be immersive. And so with that in mind, we're updating the docking experience, starting with Upwell Citadels.
So this is the part that gets me. Like, I get this, and I get the other part, but how does and the undock button? But how do these two pieces go together? That's what I want. That is pretty cool. As I think Seeds said, we flying nanites now, yo. I still don't like the smoke, though. I don't like the idea of exhaust.
These new hangar experiences should feel more like you're inside the docking bay of a busy station, where you can see the other ships docked around you, rather than feeling like you're in kind of your own private hotel room. You should see the station services
problem is I think that
around
other
your
animation would
docking bay
just
as
take too
well. Things like Aura, and perhaps you'll even be able to interact with these things directly in the future.
Yes,
At
Aura
the
needs
moment,
to be
we're
more
looking to
relevant.
Show
please.
other ships with you, and when we say other
is
ships, we mean a lot of ships. So this is the scale that we're going for, that you can see in this clip. At first, these will be the other ships currently in your hangar, so you can kind of look at them as like a pedestal of your trophies.
They can just stop right there as far as I'm concerned. That sounds so fucking cool.
And then potentially in the future, it may also show other players in station with you.
I mean, I just want to show off my own stuff, I ain't gonna lie.
And of course, larger capital ships will be getting their own updated docking bays too. Here is some concept art from our wonderful artist, Lorenzo. I have no idea if you can spin it yet. We're also looking to connect the hangar interior more to the outside world by indicating the status of the structure. Here, for example, you can see a structure which is under attack.
Not every
with
piece is
fires
going to be
bursting
everything,
from
dude. We just went over
pipes
faction
and
warfare
electrical
and
explosions,
other things.
sirens
Like,
blaring, hull warning.
yes, this is just fancy
being
stuff, but
displayed
like,
right
it's still
in the
good and
station.
it's really useful.
This is obviously a very early work in progress, but it should be really cool to get a really visceral feel of exactly how your station is interacting with the outside world. That's all I have for you today. If you'd like to hear more, please join us at the Faction Warfare Roundtable and the Living Universe presentation, where I'll go a lot more in depth on the sort of things that we're looking at for Faction Warfare.
Honestly,
And with
this
that,
is a good
I'll
retention thing
introduce
too, because like
CCP Loki.
the thing is that keeping people inspired, especially new players, like letting people understand and like be like, whoa, this is all cool, keeping that going is a good way to retain people. So like, all these visuals and stuff, people always dismiss the visuals, and those always consistently end up being the thing that everybody goes like, "Oh my God, I like this looks so great," and is the thing that keeps coming back over and over again as the thing that newer players love.
But usually I stay more in the shadows, pulling some strings, and during my time here at CCP, I have sort of been up to all kinds of shenanigans. You may remember some of these. And my sort of passion here at CCP have mainly been two things. One,
Loki can be a dangerous
create entertainment and try to avoid being shot. And the second part is world building. I'm quite obsessed with world building. And as you have maybe seen here earlier today, we are doing a lot of things to increase the immersion into Eve and sort of make things sort of come alive inside New Eden instead of Eve. In my mind, Eve is the game. New Eden is this other universe where empires are endlessly fighting. You guys are like in a decade-long feuds and fighting wars.
I legitimately feel like he stole my script.
And
right?
Just like those stories that have been created throughout the years, when we introduce new features, they should be given their own origin story.
Listen to this part.
And even more than that, you, the players, the capsuleers, should be able to participate in that story. So today, I want to talk to you about how we're going to release future expansions by using narrative-driven development and arcs.
This is the part that nobody got. This is why we don't have content announced.
As you've heard, we are moving away from quadrants. And instead, we're going to start creating story arcs. Arc will allow you to participate in the story of New Eden as events takes place, and new discovery gets discovered inside New Eden. In many cases, you'll be able to directly impact on how and when, for example, new ships, modules, or features come into existence. The first arc has already started, so there are clues out there. But understandably, I can't give you any details, as that would sort of defeat its purpose.
I can.
Now, some of you may remember stuff like the lead up to the...
Fucking called it. Fuck, I got so fucking excited. Every moment of this.
Platitudes, blandishments, lies. You of all people know that Concord and the Empires have no interests in common with you. They have done nothing for you. They shall do nothing for you. How long will you listen to their empty words? In recent days, as is their pitiful habit, Concord has made use of you to advance their own agenda. These free trade outposts you have so willingly cleared of my associates have been taken over by Concord's worst, the Cerro. Perhaps you don't believe me? Check for yourself. I have broadcast the new signatures of those sites to all. Why should you not destroy the Sorrow bully boys? They have always sought to control you.
Concord is the true enemy of all Empyreans.
Open your eyes. Seize your destiny. And, if you would, join me, the Deathless.
You will get...
I'm assuming you all want me to pause right there and talk for a little bit. So, first of all, called it. I said that we were going to get interrupted in the middle of Fanfest, and that the pirate group that we've been playing around with is going to invite us to help them against Concord. It was an educated guess, for sure, given the fact that I knew that there was a second half to this event. But that played out kind of the way I expected it to. So, who is the Deathless? I am not 100% sure yet. I want to know, or I want to look into it more, or I want to confirm some things. But first of all, the snake eating its own tail with the dot in it, I don't know if that is from anywhere. I just noticed it, so I'm gonna have to go do some research into that. But the question of who this guy is, reasonably sure this is Artichaper. Whatever his name is. I think I tweeted it earlier. This is the... So, okay. Here's the thing, all right? Players like to say that CCP abandons lore stories, but abandon is the wrong word. EVE lore plays out in real time, and there's a lot of actors working in the background. So if you remember from like a year ago, when the equilibrium of mankind suddenly decided to attack everybody, well, at that point, Mr. Artichaper, can't remember his first name, showed back up and called out everybody. So, and he looked like this. Yes, it is the Ouroboros. That is correct. So this seems to suggest to me that this new pirate group, which also, if you really want to talk about like called it, I think I can still see it. Maybe not anymore because of the because I've already chosen a side or whatever. But nope. It says in the thing the partnership of all of the different pirate groups or of the different groups, and it is all of those criminal organizations that were or not criminal, but criminal Dust 514 Caldori groups. So the Anakoro Brigade, the guys who were supposedly having turf wars with the Sekal group. Well, guess what? Turns out they're all on the same side. So Sekal group and a bunch of Caldari, gray market organizations have teamed together to make this new smuggling organization, which I think that he's the Deathless and not the smuggling organization, but we'll have to find out. But yeah, so we're seeing a new faction. Why am I excited about this? I'm going to remind you guys. There is a missing line of pirate ships. That missing line of pirate ships are a combination of Caldari and Amar, or Caldari and Mimitar. This allegiance is between Caldari criminal groups and the Thucker, fringe Thucker groups, which means if they're going to introduce a new pirate line that is those two factions, this is what it would look like. That's all I'm saying.
Bidding no more. Open your eyes. Seize your destiny. And, if you would, join me.
Yep, that's my tinfoil.
Deathless.
You will get... You will get a lot more of these. Keep your eyes open. There are clues. There are things that you need to find out. It's like during these beginning times of each arc, there will be complete radio silence from us. We will not tell you what ships we're building, whatever we're going to pull into the narrative. We want to use the narrative to tie everything together. Everything you've seen here today, the Allegiance system,
Did you hear what he just said? Did you hear what he just said? If you ever talk to anybody, any of those people on Reddit and all those people whinging and stuff like that about how they didn't announce any content, there you go. That's why. Of course they didn't announce it. They literally just said that they're not going to tell you what it is. But things are happening. So stop watching fucking keynotes to find out what ship type's going to happen and start paying attention to the goddamn universe. That's what he said.
Frontline system, everything is tied
Guess
together.
what? The lore matters now. Get over it.
So the universe
Welcome to my world.
feels like a living universe. It's alive, it's vibrant. As the arcs progress and things become more clearer, you will probably start to see a lot more of what's coming up inside the game, and you will be given like very clear objectives.
That's so fucking cool, guys.
Most likely by your faction, which you have pledged allegiance to make that thing come into reality. The faction might actually pit you against one another. So, to get something like if we were doing Citadels today, you would actually have to do a lot more to have the Citadels actually come into the game. And theoretically, if we had done a Citadel for each empire, maybe the Caldari ones would have their Citadel first, and the next, first Asteroids first, and Amar maybe 6 months later.
So, there's a piece to what he just said that you would not be faulted for missing its importance. How can we decide if this is the new content is worth more money worth if they don't tell us what it is. If you're enjoying the experience, then pay for it. If you're not enjoying the experience, don't pay for it. It's that simple. So what was I about to say? Hold on, let me rewind a little bit. Oh, yeah. So this part right here.
Their citadel first, and the next, first asteroids first, and Ammar maybe 6 months later.
That line actually will have profound ramifications for how the lore plays out, or at least has a very high likelihood of doing that. And the reason why is because Concord, one of Concord's biggest things is ensuring. In fact, AG12. There's an organization within Concord known as AG12, right? AG12's entire fucking job is to ensure that no one empire gets technology before any of the other empires. That's why technology comes out at the same time, right? Hold on. Here's the genius intended or not. You're going to need to prepare for this. If you're not Omega, you're going to be on back footing. I don't know if I agree with that. Because, I mean, if you just want to wait till the thing's done and not do the work, then go for it. But when you show up, I'm going to have way more medals, titles, uniforms, and cool stuff in my cargo bay than you. That's all. Anywho, so the simple suggestion that different empires could actually succeed at technology at different rates, and that our efforts are going to do that, represents a complete breakdown in Concord's authority over the world, which represents a complete breakdown in the cohesion between the empires themselves. Just something to think about.
And these things can, those are things that we're asking you to do. It could be something related to the frontline system. It could also relate you actually to solving puzzles. It's, because the whole idea is that
if you don't give a shit about medals, then don't worry about it. Let me worry about it. I care.
An experience that
you can just get the cool stuff once we do all the work.
We're not trying to construct a system here. We want each and every arc to be unique, have its own twists and turns, and various outcomes. This is not a game mechanic per se. This is not a system that happens again the same way again and again and again. And
so
I know
big.
Some of you are not really
it's so
taking
big
part in this mechanic, but still, you should feel that something is going on in the world. So we will start putting.
Well, yeah, Midnight. I mean, I pointed that out.
NPC fleets. We are ramping up, stuff like this where we put half-built structures into the game. We will start dressing the world up, and you will actually start feeling and seeing the universe come alive.
I can see where that concern is, but the act of unlocking something is not the same as acquiring it, right?
Of course, not everything can be explained.
So, for instance, if there is, so let's say we rewind time, right? The Garistus event comes out. The Garistus just got stolen stuff, okay? If we achieve a certain threshold of stolen stuff returned to ore, then we get the new blueprint changes right away. If instead Garistus gets a bunch of stuff, then we get the faction ship changes right away, and the capital stuff later, right? In that scenario, the act of unlocking it has nothing to do with the act of acquiring it once unlocked, right? That's what I meant by you can just bear the fruits of our labor, right? We will unlock for you cheap capital blueprints, and I'm going to get a pretty medal for it, and I'm going to get a little thing or whatever, and you're going to get cheap capital blueprints. That's what I'm saying.
Relatively, or in character. And tomorrow we'll talk more in details about the future expansions and how they are delivered. We'll also get into more detail about arcs and the narrative development. So
actually, that's a good point.
To see as many of as possible here at 11.
Crazy makes a good point. One of the things that we have found is people who have now adopted things now in industry changes, mining changes, they have been far more equipped to deal with it because they're not changing. They're just learning, And that's a big difference.
Tomorrow. And of course, we're always open to ideas. In the past, it's no secret that we have kept our, like,
Concord is the
during
Trinity of all
whole
Imperiums.
lead up to the Abyssal Dead Space, we keep our ears very close to the track, and we have on more than one occasion sort of implemented your ideas into this whole thing. This is a bit like directing a movie where you are the actors and everyone is improvising. It's a bit chaotic, but it's a lot of fun. So I hope to, I really hope we can entertain you and entertain ourselves at the same time. And, thank you, and hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you.
We are going to be going through, like, seriously, I'm playing all of the stream. I'm doing the same thing tomorrow. We're going through all of the panels. Oh yeah, roundtables won't be streamed.
So, with this complete rethink of factional warfare, we're also setting up for a strong foundation for new players to graduate into. If it's gathering resources or hauling ships to the front lines, they will have a strong purpose in the war machine. This is a massive undertaking, and as borders shift, the empires will be forced to react with new tactics and tools.
He said while borders shift.
My sources tell me that due to this rising tension, most factions have already started funneling massive amount of funds to their innovation ministries.
That's true.
And like that, we want the universe to tell as impressive stories as you all create. The empires will play a major part in this story with you. The rich backstory should not only be about yesterday, but also about today and tomorrow.
I feel like I need to stress something, okay? Because a lot of people are like, oh my God, why is this about the empires and not about us? CCP shouldn't be telling us what to do or whatever, right? This isn't the sandbox, this is theme park. This is the fucking definition of sandbox, okay? You know what isn't sandbox? Being able to do things, even missions, without it actually influencing the things that you're interacting with. That's not a sandbox. That's a theme park. That's the definition of a theme park. You're going through something that looks cool, but it isn't worth anything besides its prize, okay? A sandbox means that the universe reacts to you, allows you to mold it, allows you to become a part of it and define it, okay? So the problem here is, for years we told CCP, and CCP listened, and they did it. And actually, if Dragon's still here, I remember even going back and forth back in the day, musing about these sorts of things, where it's like, sure, you don't want to tell them what they have to do, but by not giving them a catalyst, you're not even giving them the option to choose it. Give me the thing that they want me to do, and then let me choose to do it or not. Let me choose to help or hinder. But by not giving me any goal at all, you have just failed to engage with me. That's it, pure and simple. Stop forcing players to create everything whole cloth, because you know what? The thing that we learned during the reign of the Roquall is that if you give the players everything that they need to in order to make their own stuff, and you trust them to just do it, they will turtle up, do nothing, and then bitch about it.
With that, we updated the EVE Universe portal last year, where you all can go in and really dig deep into the EVE lore. And we have plans to expand it even further. We also introduced new comics last year, the Capsuleer Chronicles. Issue 2 is out now, and we have 2 more issues to complete this arc. And then we're going to pull them all together and publish a hardcover that you can actually pre-order right now. Pretty cool. So,
who turned up? Everybody.
Today.
What are you talking about?
It's a pretty long one. And we have a very busy year ahead of us towards the 20th birthday next year. We talked about all the amazing work that the EVE Academy teams are doing on embracing new players, with career agents coming first, and then diving headfirst into exploration. Air Career Program, a new way.
I only get paid by you guys.
A new way of finding your way in New Eden. We will welcome new Spanish-speaking players to our awesome, awesome, awesome universe. and other interesting things that we'll be talking more about over Fanfest.
Actually, I'm going to dock up.
We've also covered plenty of interesting visceral candies. Lots of visual updates. Here's just a tiny bit of the things that we have planned. More ways to show your identity. New hangers, a pedestal for your achievements. Photon UI is in full swing, and we will continue to develop it. With
This is your timeline, guys.
And then we're going to dive into the HUD later in the year, but that's going to be...
People were... This is what... Okay. I just want to clear up, because I assume that people just didn't get this. There are no dates on this, right? But this is the road to the 20th birthday. When is the 20th birthday, guys? So... While this may not necessarily give like exact dates, this isn't going to say we're getting high-res nebulas in August. Just consider this a relative thing, right? Like, we expect to get career agents pretty soon, and further iterations of it for 2 or 3 iterations of it probably through the summer, right? They're going to be working on to the Photon UI, and we might start seeing the new HUD system by this time next year. You see what I'm saying, right? Like, this is your timeline, guys. It's a year timeline. It's relative, but a year is not that long of a time for it to be, like, you're not going to nail down the timers
we want to make that
at this point. That's just silly.
The best we can. We'll talk about more things at FanFest, and then there are going to be plenty of things that you're going to discover through play. And then we touched on some pretty interesting things on challenging the core, you all. With more focus on narrative-driven development, we will start our journey into more engaging factional warfare. Intibus Credit is a new way of keeping your captains engaged. We will continue to do regular events, releases, and expansions. And the first expansion is actually coming Q4 this year.
Q4 this year made me sad.
A new, more meaningful way to support your faction. And then very exciting updates that you will discover and unlock through play.
So I think that it's pretty much safe to assume, probably, that the frontline system is coming with the expansion, right? Like, let's just say that the expansion's name is like Empires to War or something like that.
Pretty exciting stuff.
Empires at War, I don't know.
We're still investing a lot in the new player experience.
EVE Online Cataclysm, no, wait.
But more and more teams are starting to move to features that benefit all, and then into the handshake between the early onboarding and the evergreen through factional warfare. We're also investing heavily into the foundation to set us up for the 3rd decade. That actually starts next year.
EVE Online Frontline?
You and your crew will actually play a key part. There is no time like now, and the future of EVE is very bright.
But where's Sancha?
I want to wish you all the best FanFest. I can't wait to hang out, talk EVE, nerd out, maybe get a couple of ideas into my head. And to close this off, I have a message from the Caldari State Chairman, Akimaka Saraki.
The darkest of days. When the reins of our world became laced with fire.
Wind is really important in Caldari.
One warrior's fierce duty seared a path to our future. The ultimate sacrifice made in blood and steel.
Hoville.
We remain Caldari, no matter the cost. Everything we are, we owe to our ideals. They fuel our rise as the heart of a raging storm. beacon of strength, a shrine to our identity. Honor and preserve your family, your corporation, your state. Without hesitation, without remorse.
I sincerely believe that, like, if you remember the Minotaur one, this was basically the Caldari equivalent. Like, the Caldari got a minor one, but this is, like, way better. That person that you, that they show, for those of you who don't know, is a guy named Admiral Yakira Toba. And he was the military commander that single-handedly, well, not single-handedly, him and his forces, he took a team of dudes and did guerrilla warfare against Gallente Prime during the Caldari bombardment, forcing the Gallente to move their bombardment off of the Caldari Prime to go deal with him, giving the Caldari the precious time that they needed to escape the planet to, reconsolidate at New Caldari Prime. In the end, with a damaged ship and all of his, assistants lost, he made the ultimate sacrifice by turning the carrier itself onto Gallente Prime, smashing it into the planet. His sacrifice is one of the most famous stories, and his name is the first words that every Caldari is taught. So, big deal. I'm going to go to the bathroom while it plays again.
Do you all want to see that again, or you want to see it again? Then you have to promise me two things. First, the guys over there and girls told me that you have to clear the room after we finish the trailer if we play it again. But the second thing, promise me to have a fantastic weekend here. Eve it's going to be amazing, and I can't wait to share more stories with you. Thank you. Play it again.
Cold wind remembers the darkest of days. When the rains of our world became laced with fire. One warrior's fierce duty seared a path to our future. The ultimate sacrifice made in blood and steel. We remain Caldari, no matter the cost. Everything we are, we owe to our ideals. They fuel our rise as the heart of a raging storm. A beacon of strength, and a shrine to our identity. Honor and preserve your family, your corporation, your state. Without hesitation, without remorse.